So Dania, you've written before, including for Equitable Growth, on reparations. Could you tell us, how do you see reparations playing, what role do you, or what is the, I should say, interaction or relationship between reparations and wealth inequality in the United States?
That's great, thank you. So I think that the major point I would make is that when we look at wealth inequality in the U.S., in particular racial wealth inequality, we can draw kind of a direct line back to some of these discriminatory policies that we mentioned earlier, right? Redlining, urban renewal, right? The ability, right? Slavery, Jim Crow, right? Like the interruption of the ability of Black families, Indigenous families, right, to be able to accumulate wealth at the same rate and with the same opportunities as white families in the past. Why does that matter? It matters because what we were just talking about was that wealth is intergenerational. Right? If we don't have a strong inheritance tax or a strong system of redistribution of this intergenerational wealth, then there's a leg up, right? And Olivia is right that it's not just through inheritance, it's throughout the life course, right? It's the ability of my parents to help me pay for college so that when I finish college, I have less debt and I'm better able to finance a house in a nice neighborhood. A nice neighborhood matters because it matters for my health, right? For the environmental consequences we were talking about earlier. And it matters because the nice neighborhoods have nice schools and that affects my children, right? So in that way, there are all these ripple effects of access that wealth provides, right? So the key point here that I'd make is that wealth provides access and a leg up that is sometimes invisible. And when I say invisible, I mean sort of dangerously invisible in the sense that if I'm benefiting from intergenerational wealth, but it's not something that I ever talk about or think about or know, and the people in my community are also benefiting in the same way, so I don't see that there are people who aren't benefiting in that same way, right? Then I think that everything I've earned is because of my hard work. And if I look at communities that don't have it, it's because they don't work hard, right? And so in that sense, I think that this sort of invisible transmission of intergenerational wealth is dangerous for how we view inequality, how we view poverty, right? And so all that sort of, to bring it back around to this discussion of the question you asked me about reparations is, education alone is not enough to overcome. Olivier just said that in the context in France, and it's the case also in the US, these wealth gaps. It's not enough. When we look at highly educated Black households, they have a fraction of the wealth of similarly educated white households and even white households with lower levels of education, right? So education is important, but it's not enough. And really then, how do we address the racial wealth gaps in the US? Through something like direct transfers, right? And what I'm calling and what people call reparations, right? And so in that sense, we're talking about reparations, not just for slavery, for Jim Crow in the South, but for a lot of the state-sanctioned, government-sanctioned policies in the past that led to the wealth gaps that we see today.